The arrival. Admiral Zar stood at the command center of the Dominion flagship, Eternal Conquest, his 4 eyes fixed on the blue-green planet below. Earth. The latest target in the Coalition's centuries-long campaign of galactic expansion. His scaled skin shimmered under the ambient lighting as he studied the holographic displays surrounding him. Primitive, he muttered, mandibles clicking in amusement. Their most advanced satellites are barely more sophisticated than children's toys. Behind him, the bridge crew, representatives from 12 different species that made up the Coalition, continued their preparations for the invasion. The fleet of 10,000 warships had arranged itself in the traditional Dominion formation, a display of power meant to intimidate their victims into immediate surrender. "Admiral," called out Lieutenant Vexare, her crystalline form refracting light across the bridge. "Our preliminary scans are complete. Their military capabilities are laughable." She projected a detailed analysis into the center of the command room. Projectile weapons, primitive nuclear devices, and a handful of orbital stations. Nothing that could penetrate even our most basic shields. Zar's upper lip curled in what passed for a smile among his species. "As expected." "What of their political structure?" "Fractured, sir. Multiple independent nations, competing ideologies, and constant internal conflicts. They've never achieved unified planetary governance." Vexare's report was interrupted by a burst of laughter from several crew members. "Typical," Commander Yirthak rumbled from his gravity-enhanced station. The massive being's voice carried the weight of countless successful conquests. "They're barely past their industrial age. This will be easier than the subjugation of Proxima 3. Zar raised a hand for silence, his attention caught by something unusual in the data streams. "Their internet, it's surprisingly robust. And their technological progress over the last century has been remarkable." He paused, studying the information more closely. "Perhaps we should." "Admiral," interrupted General Mraz, the Coalition's senior military advisor. "With respect, we've seen this pattern before. Many primitive species experience rapid technological growth just before contact. It means nothing. Our analysts predict a 99% chance of immediate surrender once we demonstrate our capabilities." Zar nodded slowly, pushing aside his momentary concern. The general was right, they'd done this hundreds of times before. Earth was no different from any other pre-FTL civilization they'd encountered. "Very well. Prepare the standard ultimatum. Let's give them the opportunity to surrender with dignity." He turned to face the holographic representation of Earth once more. "Though I doubt they'll have the wisdom to take it." The message was crafted with the same arrogant efficiency that had served them well across countless conquests. Translated into all of Earth's major languages, it demanded immediate and unconditional surrender. The alternatives were spelled out in explicit detail: resistance would result in the systematic destruction of major population centers until submission was achieved. As the message was broadcast globally, Zar and his command staff waited expectantly for the panic to begin. Their sensors were calibrated to detect mass population movements, sudden changes in communication patterns, and the inevitable chaos that followed such announcements. But Earth's response defied their expectations. There was no panic. No mass exodus from major cities. No frantic military mobilization. Instead, after exactly 3 minutes and 17 seconds, a single response was transmitted simultaneously from multiple points around the globe. The message was brief: leave now or face the consequences. For several moments, silence reigned on the bridge of the Eternal Conquest. Then, starting with a few chuckles and growing into full-throated roars, laughter erupted across the command center. "They can't be serious," Mraz wheezed, his respiratory chambers expanding with mirth. "With what? Their primitive missiles? Their chemical explosives?" Zar joined in the laughter, but something about the response nagged at him. The coordination required to send a simultaneous message from multiple global locations suggested a level of unity that contradicted their intelligence about Earth's fractured political landscape. "Sir," Vexare called out, her crystalline form vibrating with confusion. "I'm detecting something odd. Their satellite networks, they're continuing to operate normally. Commercial flights haven't been grounded. Their financial markets are showing no significant disruption. They're in denial," Yirthak dismissed. "It's a common response among primitive species. They simply can't comprehend the reality of their situation." Zar studied the planet below with growing unease. In all his years of conquest, he'd never seen a population react this way. Fear, panic, desperate resistance, yes. But this calm, this almost dismissive response. "Perhaps we should conduct more detailed scans before." "Admiral," Miraz interrupted again, his tone carrying a hint of challenge. "The Coalition Council expects this operation to proceed according to standard protocols. We can't justify delaying the invasion because the primitives are acting unusual." Zar felt the weight of centuries of tradition and expectation pressing down on him. The Coalition had never failed in a conquest. Their methods were proven, their superiority absolute. What harm could one primitive planet possibly pose? "You're right, of course," he conceded. "Prepare the first wave. We'll target their largest military installations as a demonstration of our power. That should break this unusual facade of calm." As the fleet began moving into attack position, Zar couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something crucial. The humans' response had been too coordinated, too calm, too confident. But it was too late for such doubts. The invasion of Earth was about to begin, and the Coalition never retreated from a committed action. As the first wave of ships descended through the atmosphere, Zar pushed his concerns aside and focused on the task at hand. They were about to teach humanity the price of defiance. What Zar and his fellow commanders couldn't know was that Earth's strange behavior wasn't denial or resignation, it was preparation. While the alien fleet positioned itself for what they assumed would be an easy conquest, hidden systems across the planet and in orbit were coming online, and a plan centuries in the making was about to unfold. The humans had given their warning. Now they would demonstrate exactly why it should have been heeded, the first strike. The first wave of Coalition dropships pierced Earth's atmosphere at precisely 0600 UTC. 500 vessels, each carrying enough firepower to level a small city, descended through cloudy skies toward their designated targets. Their sensor arrays were focused on Earth's major military installations, ready to deliver a devastating demonstration of alien superiority. Lieutenant Vexare monitored the assault from her station aboard the Eternal Conquest. First wave approaching optimal attack altitude. No defensive responses detected. Earth's military bases remain at standard readiness levels. Admiral Zar watched the tactical display with growing discomfort. Still no evacuations. No scrambling of their primitive aircraft. "None, sir," Vexare confirmed. "Their commercial air traffic continues as normal. We're even detecting scheduled takeoffs and landings at civilian airports adjacent to our target zones." Before Zar could voice his concerns, General Miraz spoke up. "This is perfect. Their arrogance will make this demonstration even more effective. Imagine their shock when their mighty military bases vanish while their citizens watch from nearby terminals." The first wave reached their designated attack positions, hovering 3 kilometers above their targets. Command channels filled with status reports as weapon systems powered up for the initial strike. That's when everything changed. The attack leader's transmission cut off mid-sentence. Then another. And another. In rapid succession, dropships began disappearing from tactical displays. "What's happening?" Zar demanded, all 4 eyes fixed on the rapidly updating battle map. Vexare's crystalline form vibrated with confusion. "Unknown, sir. We're detecting no energy weapons, no missile launches, no." She stopped abruptly, her sensors detecting something impossible. "Sir, the human satellites, they're moving." The Coalition fleet watched in stunned disbelief as Earth's supposedly primitive satellite network came alive. Communications satellites revealed hidden weapon ports. Weather monitoring stations transformed into targeting arrays. Even debris that had been dismissed as space junk began shifting position, revealing sophisticated stealth systems. "Impossible," Mraz whispered. "Their technological level, the analysis was wrong," Zar finished grimly. "Or we were meant to believe it was lower than it is." Status of the first wave. Vexaray's response was interrupted by a massive energy surge from Earth's surface. Hundreds of locations, many in seemingly empty wilderness areas, revealed hidden installations as advanced defensive systems activated. The supposedly primitive planet had suddenly bristled with technology far beyond what the Coalition had believed possible. "First wave losses at 78% and climbing," Vexaray reported, her voice trembling. "They're using some kind of focused gravitational weapon we've never encountered before. Our shields, they're useless against it." Zar's tactical training took over. "Pull back the remaining ships. Order the fleet to battle stations and begin emergency defensive protocols." But the humans weren't finished. As the Coalition fleet scrambled to respond, Earth's orbital defense grid fully activated. What they had dismissed as primitive satellites revealed themselves to be parts of an interconnected weapons system that now surrounded their entire fleet. "Admiral," Vexaray called out, her usual calm shattered. "I'm detecting quantum entanglement signatures. Thousands of them. The satellites, they're linked somehow. Creating some kind of..." The rest of her warning was drowned out by emergency alarms as the human defense grid unleashed its full power. Space itself seemed to warp around Coalition ships as gravitational weapons disrupted their carefully maintained formation. Advanced ECM systems, hidden in what they'd thought were primitive communication satellites, began systematically disabling their targeting systems. "How?" Commander Yirthak demanded, his massive form shifting anxiously in his gravity chair. "How did they hide all this?" "Our scans were exactly what they wanted us to see," Zar realized, watching as more of his ships went dark. "They knew we were coming. Not just today, they've known for years. Maybe decades." The truth hit him like a physical blow. Earth's seeming vulnerability, their fractured political system, even their apparently primitive technology level, it had all been an elaborate deception. While the Coalition watched and waited, believing themselves superior, humanity had been preparing. "Sir," Vexaray's voice had taken on an edge of panic. "I'm detecting massive energy buildups from Earth's polar regions. Something's happening in their oceans too. We're picking up thousands of new signatures rising from the depths." Zar made a decision. "Send the emergency signal to the Coalition Council. Earth is not what we thought. We need reinforcements in." His words were cut off as a new type of weapon struck the Eternal Conquest. The ship's quantum shields, supposedly impenetrable, flickered and failed. Through the bridge viewport, Zar watched in horror as sections of his mighty vessel began literally disappearing, the very atoms of its structure being systematically disassembled by forces he couldn't comprehend. "Full retreat," he ordered, knowing it might already be too late. "Get us out of this system." But retreat proved as difficult as advance. The human satellite network had created a complex gravitational web around Earth, making conventional FTL travel impossible without precise calculations their computers couldn't make while under electronic attack. As his fleet desperately tried to regroup, Zar received a transmission from Earth. Unlike their previous warning, this one came with visual communication. The human who appeared on his screen was unremarkable in appearance, wearing what appeared to be a simple civilian business suit. "We warned you," the human said calmly, as though discussing the weather. "What you're experiencing now is only our first layer of defense. You have 30 minutes to surrender or withdraw. After that, we will be forced to demonstrate our actual military capabilities. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. First layer. Yirthak whispered, his usual bravado gone. You mean this isn't? Admiral, Vexare interrupted, her crystalline form now pulsing with urgent patterns. You need to see this. Our long-range sensors are picking up something massive approaching from behind Earth's moon. And the readings from their oceans, whatever's down there is waking up. Zar stared at the tactical display, watching as more of his ships were systematically disabled or destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist. The mighty coalition fleet, terror of 1,000 worlds, was being dismantled by defenses they hadn't even known to look for. And according to the humans, this was just the beginning. Send the withdrawal signal, Zar ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of impending disaster. All ships to implement emergency escape protocols. We need to warn the coalition. But as his remaining ships struggled to break free from Earth's gravitational web, Zar couldn't shake the feeling that it was already too late. They had dismissed humanity's warning as empty bravado, and now they were about to learn exactly what consequences the humans had been warning them about. The real battle for Earth was about to begin. Zar stared at the tactical display, watching as more of his ships were systematically disabled or destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist. The mighty coalition fleet, terror of 1,000 worlds, was being dismantled by defenses they hadn't even known to look for. And according to the humans, this was just the beginning. Send the withdrawal signal, Zar ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of impending disaster. All ships to implement emergency escape protocols. We need to warn the coalition. But as his remaining ships struggled to break free from Earth's gravitational web, Zar couldn't shake the feeling that it was already too late. They had dismissed humanity's warning as empty bravado, and now they were about to learn exactly what consequences the humans had been warning them about. The real battle for Earth was about to begin. He was interrupted by a new alert as the lunar sensors began screaming. The dark side of Earth's moon was opening. There was no better way to describe it. Massive sections of the lunar surface were shifting, revealing what appeared to be an artificial structure that spanned nearly a quarter of the moon's diameter. By the first species, Commander Yirthak breathed, watching as the lunar installation powered up. They've hollowed out their moon. Zar's tactical display was a chaos of warning indicators. Half his remaining fleet was still trapped in Earth's gravitational web, their FTL drives unable to function. The other half was scattered, trying desperately to regroup while under constant attack from the orbital defense grid. And now this. Sir, Vexare called out, her tone urgent. The oceanic structures, they're not weapons platforms. They're portals. Before Zar could process this information, the energy structures rising from Earth's oceans stabilized into massive rings of shifting light. From within these impossible portals, something began to emerge. Ships. But not like anything the coalition had ever encountered. They moved like living things, their hulls seeming to ripple and shift as though the metal itself was alive. They ranged in size from small interceptors to massive dreadnoughts that made the Eternal Conquest look like a shuttlecraft. How long? Zar demanded, his 4 eyes fixed on the emerging fleet. How long have they been building these? Sir, Vexare's response was barely a whisper. According to our scans, these ships are not new. The energy signatures, they're ancient. Centuries old at least. Humanity hasn't just been preparing for us. They've been preparing for something like this for generations. The human fleet continued to emerge from the oceanic portals, taking up defensive positions around their planet with practiced precision. Their formation was unlike anything in the Coalition's tactical database, but its effectiveness was immediately apparent. They were creating overlapping fields of influence that somehow strengthened their gravitational web while simultaneously establishing clear killing zones. Admiral, Yirthak called out, his massive frame tense with anxiety. The lunar installation, it's charging something. The energy readings are beyond anything in our records. Zar watched as the artificial structure in the moon began to glow with building power. Whatever weapon humanity had hidden there, it had been designed on a scale that suggested they weren't just capable of defending their planet, they could probably destroy entire star systems if they chose to. Another transmission from Earth cut through their communications. This time, the human spokesperson was joined by others, each wearing the same unassuming civilian attire that seemed even more mockingly casual now. "Your 30 minutes are up," the original spokesperson announced calmly. "We notice you've begun withdrawal procedures for some of your vessels. This is wise. However, you still have ships attempting to maintain attack positions." "You don't understand," Zar found himself saying. "Our drive systems, your gravitational web has trapped half our fleet. We can't." "We are aware," the human interrupted. "We designed the web specifically to prevent activation of your particular FTL technology. However, we are not unreasonable. We will provide your trapped vessels with the necessary calculations to safely exit the web's influence, on one condition." Zar felt his scales tighten with dread. "What condition?" "Information," another human stepped forward. "We want to know why you really came here. Not the surface reason, planetary conquest, resources, standard colonial expansion. We want to know what your coalition is running from." The command center fell silent. How could they possibly know about that? The great terror that drove the coalition's endless expansion was their most closely guarded secret. Before Zar could formulate a response, the lunar installation finished charging. A beam of pure white light shot from its central aperture, threading through space with impossible precision to strike a single coalition ship. The vessel didn't explode or break apart, it simply ceased to exist, along with a perfectly cylindrical section of space around it. "That was a warning shot," the human spokesperson explained. "A minimal power demonstration from one of our older defensive systems. You have 10 minutes to begin sharing the information we seek, or we will be forced to demonstrate our current military capabilities." Zar looked at his tactical display again. The human fleet had finished emerging from their oceanic portals, presenting a unified defense grid that made their orbital weapons look primitive by comparison. The lunar installation was obviously capable of erasing capital ships from existence. And according to their scans, countless other defense systems around the planet hadn't even activated yet. The humans knew, he realized aloud. They weren't just preparing for random alien contact. They knew about the coalition. About what's out there. They'd been building all this because they knew what was coming. "Sir," Vexare's voice was small. "I'm detecting new energy signatures. The humans, they're powering up something else. Something beneath their planet's surface." As if Earth itself wasn't done surprising them, new readings began pouring in from the planet below. Whatever humanity had hidden in their planet's core made their oceanic fleet and lunar weapon look like toys in comparison. Zar made the only decision he could. Open a secure channel to Earth. Full encryption. He took a deep breath. It's time they learned about the Devourers. And why we've spent centuries running from galaxy to galaxy, consuming every resource and conscripting every species we encounter. As his communication officers prepared the channel, Zar couldn't help but wonder if humanity had actually been waiting for this moment. If perhaps, all along, Earth hadn't been just another target for conquest. Perhaps they had been preparing to be humanity's last line of defense against something far worse than the coalition could ever be. Ancient truths. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, in a chamber that had remained hidden for centuries, Dr. Sarah Chen studied the holographic display of the coalition fleet with practiced calm. Around her, the Global Defense Council, representatives from every nation on Earth, watched in silence as Admiral Zar's transmission began. The alien commander's image flickered above the central table, his scaled features drawn with worry. "What I'm about to tell you, it's the coalition's greatest secret. The truth we've hidden from every world we've conquered." Sarah exchanged glances with her colleagues. This was the moment they'd been waiting for since the first warning had arrived, centuries ago. The Devourers, Zar continued, his voice heavy. We first encountered them 3,000 years ago, in a galaxy far from here. They don't just destroy worlds. They consume reality itself. The alien admiral manipulated something off-screen, and a new image appeared. Sarah felt her breath catch, not in surprise, but in confirmation. The massive, reality-warping entities shown in the Coalition's footage matched perfectly with the images encoded in the warning. Their technology, if you can call it that, operates on principles we barely understand, Zar explained. They travel between galaxies, consuming everything in their path. Not just matter and energy, they devour space-time itself, leaving behind nothing. Not even void. Just absence. And how long have they been following you? Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. Zar's 4 eyes widened in shock. How did you? We've known about the Devourers for a very long time, Admiral, Sarah replied, nodding to one of her colleagues. The chamber's walls shifted, revealing ancient markings that had been preserved for millennia. What you call Devourers, the ones who sent us the warning called them the end of all things. The alien commander stared at the markings, his mandibles clicking in disbelief. That's impossible. No one else has ever known about them. Sarah smiled sadly. Admiral, humanity's story is far more complex than you realized. We didn't develop all this technology on our own. We had help. Or more accurately, we had instructions. With another gesture, she activated the chamber's primary historical display. The room filled with images of humanity's true history, the one hidden from public view for centuries. It showed the discovery of the warning, buried deep within Earth's crust, left there by a civilization that had faced the Devourers in a galaxy now long gone. The warning arrived on Earth during what we now call the Permian extinction, Sarah explained. A capsule of pure knowledge, encoded in crystals that took us centuries just to begin understanding. It contained everything, scientific principles, technological blueprints, and most importantly, the truth about what was coming. Zar's image flickered as his ship absorbed another hit from Earth's defenses. You're saying, all of this, your weapons, your ships, that lunar installation, were built from instructions left to us by those who faced the Devourers before, Sarah confirmed. They knew they couldn't stop them, not in their time. But they had discovered something about Earth, about humanity's potential. Something that made them choose us as their successors. The chamber's displays shifted again, showing the network of defenses humanity had spent centuries constructing. The orbital grid, the oceanic fleet, the lunar weapon, they were all connected, all part of a single, vast machine that encompassed the entire solar system. Your coalition's endless expansion, Sarah continued, consuming resources, conquering worlds, you've been running from the Devourers for so long, you've become a smaller version of what you fear. But that ends here. Earth isn't just another planet for you to conquer. It's where humanity makes its stand, not just for ourselves, but for all life in this galaxy. As if in response to her words, new alerts began sounding throughout the chamber. The sensors built into Jupiter's moons had activated, detecting something massive entering the solar system. They're here, Zar whispered, terror evident in his voice. The Devourers, they followed us. They always follow us. Sarah stood, her expression resolute. No, Admiral. They didn't follow you. They were always coming here. The warning told us exactly when they would arrive. Why do you think we let your fleet get close enough to scan our defenses? Understanding dawned in Zar's eyes. You wanted us to come. You needed us to see. That humanity is ready, Sarah finished. That we have the means to fight them. But we need the coalition's help. Not as conquerors, but as allies. The chamber's sensors registered massive spatial distortions at the edge of the solar system. The Devourers were beginning their approach, their very presence warping the fabric of reality. Everything we've built, Sarah explained, activating the final systems that had lain dormant for so long, every weapon, every shield, every seemingly impossible technology, it's all designed for one purpose. The warning didn't just give us the means to fight the Devourers. It showed us how to imprison them. The earth began to tremble as something vast and ancient awakened beneath their feet. In orbit, the Coalition fleet watched in awe as the planet itself seemed to pulse with power. Admiral Zar, Sarah's voice carried the weight of centuries of preparation. Humanity stands ready to face the greatest threat our galaxy has ever known. The question is, will the Coalition stand with us? As the Devourers approached and Earth's true defenses began to power up, the fate of not just humanity, but all reality hung in the balance. The time of preparation was over. The real war was about to begin. Endgame. They came like living tears in reality, massive entities that defied comprehension, their very presence distorting the space around them. The Devourers approached the solar system not as ships or beings, but as waves of unreality that consumed everything in their path. From the Global Defense Council chamber deep beneath Earth's surface, Dr. Sarah Chen watched as the Coalition fleet made their decision. One by one, the alien ships adjusted their positions, moving to predetermined coordinates provided by Earth's defense systems. A wise choice, Admiral Zar, she said, noting how the Coalition vessels were now integrated into humanity's greater defense plan. Your ships will be crucial for what comes next. The Admiral's holographic image flickered. The modifications your engineers transmitted. I've never seen anything like them. These energy signatures, they're similar to the Devourer's own technology. Precisely, Sarah confirmed. The warning didn't just tell us about the enemy, it showed us how to adapt their own reality-warping principles against them. She turned to her colleagues. Activate the Soul Lock Protocol. Throughout the solar system, humanity's true defenses began to wake. The orbital defense grid around Earth, impressive as it had seemed to the Coalition, was revealed to be merely the trigger mechanism for something far greater. Every planet, moon, and significant asteroid in the solar system lit up with hidden installations that had waited centuries for this moment. By the first species, Zar breathed, watching as his sensors detected the true scope of humanity's preparations. You've turned your entire solar system into a weapon. Not a weapon, Sarah corrected. A trap. The Devourers crossed Jupiter's orbit, their massive forms distorting the giant planet's magnetic field. As they did, the installations hidden in Jupiter's moons activated, creating a complex web of gravitational forces that began to alter the very fabric of spacetime around the solar system. For centuries, Sarah explained, humanity united under a single purpose, hidden behind a facade of division and conflict. Every scientific breakthrough, every technological advancement, was guided by the warning's instructions. We built our societies to appear primitive while preparing for this moment. On her signal, the oceanic fleet that had so impressed the Coalition began to move. But instead of advancing to attack, the ships arranged themselves in a complex three-dimensional pattern around Earth, their energy signatures pulsing in perfect synchronization with the lunar installation. The Devourers don't just consume reality, Sarah continued, activating another layer of defenses. They exist partially outside of it. That's why conventional weapons have never worked against them. But the warning showed us something extraordinary, a way to trap beings that exist beyond normal spacetime. The chamber's displays showed the Devourers approaching Mars. As they did, hidden installations beneath the red planet's surface activated, adding another layer to the complex energy pattern building throughout the solar system. Your ships, Sarah addressed Zar, are now part of the largest spacetime manipulation engine ever constructed. Each vessel is a focal point in a pattern that took us centuries to calculate. When the Devourers reach the critical position, they'll be trapped, Zar finished, finally understanding. Your entire solar system, it's a cosmic snare. The Devourers, perhaps sensing the trap, began to accelerate. Their massive forms twisted space itself as they rushed toward Earth, reality warping around them like cloth in a storm. They had consumed countless civilizations, devoured entire galaxies. They would not be stopped by mere technology. But humanity had prepared for their desperation. "Activate the final sequence," Sarah ordered. The Earth itself seemed to pulse as ancient machines, buried deep within the planet's core, roared to life. The energy pattern created by the orbital grid, the oceanic fleet, and the lunar installation suddenly expanded, encompassing the entire inner solar system in a complex web of space-time distortions. The Devourers hit the outer edge of the pattern at full speed. For a moment, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Then the trap closed. Space-time folded in impossible ways as the power of an entire solar system's worth of machinery activated simultaneously. The Devourers, caught in mid-consumption, found themselves trapped in a perpetual loop of folded reality, unable to fully exist in any one dimension. Now, Sarah commanded, "Initiate the lock." The lunar installation fired its weapon, not a beam of destruction this time, but a precise pulse of energy that crystallized the spacetime distortions, making them permanent. The Devourers, entities that had terrorized galaxies, were frozen in a prison between moments, between dimensions. "It's done," Sarah announced, watching as the reading stabilized. The warning was right. It worked exactly as they said it would. Zara's image showed him staring in disbelief at his own sensor readings. "You didn't just trap them. You've created a permanent dimensional lock. A prison that will last forever," Sarah nodded. "Or at least as long as our solar system exists. Which is why we needed your fleet. Your ships are now part of the lock, their positions and energy signatures helping to maintain the prison's stability." The coalition commander was quiet for a long moment. "We spent millennia running from them, consuming worlds in our desperate attempt to stay ahead. And all this time, you were headed exactly where you needed to be," Sarah finished. "The warning told us the coalition would come. That you would be necessary for the trap to work. Every detail of our development was calculated to ensure this moment happened exactly as it has." Throughout the solar system, the complex machinery that humanity had spent centuries building began to shift into its maintenance phase. The prison was stable, the Devourers secured in their eternal containment. "So what now?" Zar asked, his voice heavy with the weight of possibilities. Sarah smiled. "Now, Admiral, we offer the coalition a choice. Stay and help us guard this prison, sharing in the technology and knowledge we've developed. Or leave, free to find your own path without the Devourers haunting your steps. Either way, the time of running is over." In orbit around Earth, coalition ships hung motionless among humanity's defense grid, their crews trying to process how completely their understanding of the universe had changed. They had come as conquerors, only to find themselves part of something far greater. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, Sarah looked at the ancient markings that had guided humanity for so long. The warning had served its purpose, transforming a primitive species into the guardians of reality itself. Now, at last, humanity could step out of the shadows, ready to help guide the galaxy toward a future free from the terror of the Devourers. The trap had been set, the prey caught, and the prison sealed. Earth's long vigilance would continue, but now they had allies in their eternal watch. The silent defiance that had masked centuries of preparation had given way to a new era, one where humanity's true power and purpose could finally be revealed. In the depths of space, locked between moments of time, the Devourers hung suspended in their eternal prison, a testament to the power of preparation, unity, and the indomitable spirit of a species that had turned its entire solar system into the ultimate defense for all reality.